Almost every major American movement / ideology you can think of, whether it be William Jennings Bryan's populism, Hoover's rugged individualism, or FDR's New Deal liberalism, traces its roots back to either Jeffersonian or Hamiltonian thought. These two guys are extremely influential in shaping the American identity, economy, and the never-ending debates related to the role the federal government needs to play in our country. In this video, I'm going to cover the Jeffersonian and Hamiltonian influences in modern America, especially in the two parties and other political groups. To start this video off, we're going to go over the four major policies that Hamilton and Jefferson disagreed about, which is broadly just government, business, trade, and military policy. And for each of these four policies, I'm going to go over the Hamiltonian and Jeffersonian viewpoint and how that viewpoint has manifested itself in today's politics. And for that, I'm going to refer back to this diagram a lot, which shows the three wings of the Democrat and Republican Party that I believe are the most prominent. I chose a figurehead to represent the beliefs of each wing. And I'll leave a further explanation of this diagram in the comments for anyone who wants to know more about my categorizations or disagrees with them. But I will be referring to these three wings throughout the video. So for government, Hamilton, essentially as a Federalist, was obviously for the expansion of the federal government, which was mostly justified by his belief in the elastic clause of the Constitution. He thought a strong federal government was necessary in order to forcefully transform America into a strong manufacturing economy. And as an Anglophile, he essentially wanted America to become a better version of Britain. So this meant chartering a national bank, increasing taxes, taking on national debt, and building infrastructure to kind of mimic Britain's economy. And essentially, the active government policy that we see in the liberalism of FDR, Kennedy, LBJ, descended from Hamiltonianism and was further transformed by Keynesian economic theory and the like. But generally, the idea that the federal government should be active in trying to better people's lives originates from Hamilton's vision of the federal government. Now, for the Jeffersonian perspective, Jefferson was vehemently against the federal government. Jefferson essentially wanted America to be like a decentralized republic where each state would essentially be like its own nation with its own government that would decide tax policy, debt policy, and how to build infrastructure. Jefferson wasn't against the government doing any of those things as long as it wasn't the federal government. He wanted the state government to be in charge of all that stuff. So Jefferson essentially was the original inspiration for the ideals of states' rights and libertarianism, which you see strongly in the libertarian wing of the Republican Party. You also see states' rights used as an argument by conservatives who bring it up as a way to prevent socially progressive legislation from passing. Roe v. Wade's appeal was justified by the argument that state governments are the ones that should decide policies for their constituents. And opposition to civil rights and abolition was also justified in this way. And Jefferson was also largely influential to the small government mantra that you hear coming from the Republicans. And you definitely saw it in the presidencies of Calvin Coolidge in the 20s or Ronald Reagan in the 80s. Now, on economy, Hamilton was strongly pro-business, but since the American economy was very weak at the time, he had to use a big government to intervene significantly. His central bank gave out loans to businesses. He used tariffs in order to prevent British companies from outcompeting American ones. He introduced an unpopular tax on whiskey in order to try and fund the construction of roads and canals. Hamilton essentially wanted to use the big government he created to strong-arm the American economy into inching closer and closer to becoming a manufacturing economy like that of England and other European nations. In his strong pro-business stance, he'd obviously be similar to modern Republicans, especially the Trumpist, like nationalist wing, who's also very protectionist. However, Hamilton's strong interventionist policies, his national bank, and the large debt he accumulated would be extremely unpopular with the libertarian and conservative wings of the Republican Party and party as a whole. Yeah, I really don't know where he'd definitively fall on for economy, but his influences are kind of in the liberal economics of the Democrats, but also kind of in the pro-business policies of the Republicans and the protectionism of the Trumpists. And for Jefferson opposed the business interests of the Northeast, instead prioritizing the agrarian elite and small-time farmers. He was very much focused on being a voice of the lower classes, similar to progressives today. However, Jefferson was also extremely laissez-faire, but not for the same reasons that Republicans in the Gilded Age would be laissez-faire. It was more so because by being laissez-faire, Jefferson was allowing the agrarian economy to continue without helping manufacturers. Because Jefferson was extremely opposed to manufacturing because he believed it would lead to urbanization, which would inherently bring about corruption, which he wasn't really wrong about that. But overall, Jefferson kind of falls into neither party fully because agrarianism is largely dead as a full-fledged economic system. But agrarianism does exist in rural communities, which are definitely represented by Republicans. So we kind of already went over this, but Hamilton was an extreme protectionist. He viewed tariffs as kind of a subsidy for the growing manufacturing industry of America. He used these tariffs as a major source of revenue to pay off debts and fund the military as well. So this does align him very closely with the nationalist Republicans. But I honestly think that since Hamilton's main agenda was to get American industry going, he might have adapted to free trade policies if he lived until today, because American corporations now benefit from free trade, especially at least the large ones. And Hamilton probably wouldn't care about a blue-collar worker losing his job to someone overseas if it meant the business elite benefits. Like, do you guys think Hamilton would sign NAFTA if he were alive today? He probably would, right, because of his strong pro-business stance. But it's just that back then, America was so far behind Britain in manufacturing that tariffs were kind of the only thing Hamilton could use to even have a hope of catching up to Britain. But in a modern economy where America is a superpower, his stance might evolve. Now, for Jeffersonianism, Jefferson was obviously opposed to protectionism because it hurt farmers who would depend on buying foreign agricultural equipment, which was largely superior to American-made equipment at the time. He also opposed tariffs because he strongly opposed manufacturing. However, over time, tariffs were seen as a way to help the lower class rather than hurt it. In the 1920s, for example, tariffs were passed with the intent to protect domestic farmers from cheap foreign produce. And also NAFTA was strongly opposed by labor unions. And since lower classes are now seen as being helped by tariffs, maybe Jefferson's stance would also flip, like how I predict Hamilton's stance would flip, but I really don't know. Now, on military/foreign policy, Hamilton was extremely paranoid about external threats to American sovereignty. He sought to be a military power as part of his agenda to turn America into a European-style great power. He wanted to establish a strong army and navy in order to kind of show off American power abroad, but mostly for national security reasons, but also for domestic security as well, as he used his army to crush the Whiskey Rebellion. So this would definitely align him with the nationalist wing of the Republican Party, who has also floated out ideas like using the military to protect the border. And obviously, they care very much about national security as well. And they're also very isolationist, very similar to Hamilton, because Hamilton was very wary of foreign entanglements, like a lot of founding fathers at the time. In contrast to Hamilton, Jefferson was vehemently against a strong national military, as he was generally opposed to any form of centralized government power that could be used to crush the people. Jefferson more so wanted state militias that could unite if a threat were to ever show up. Jefferson was also very wary of foreign entanglements, just like Hamilton. So yeah, overall, Jefferson would probably be aligned with the isolationists, but he'd also kind of align with the progressive Democrats who, support lowering military spending. Hamilton's vision was definitely more influential to America today. I mean, unfortunately for Jefferson, America is not an agrarian utopia of yeoman farmers. It is a complex manufacturing economy. Well, at least it was a manufacturing economy. Now it's a service economy, but it still has a strong manufacturing sector. And we do have a central bank, which was created by Woodrow Wilson, the Federal Reserve. And the federal government's power has absolutely been expanded. The national debt has blossomed. Even conservative hero Ronald Reagan increased the national debt with large military spending. And again, large military spending, another thing Hamilton advocated for. The government has certainly played an active role in the economy too, more times than not. But part of that is more due to the influence of Keynesian economic theory than Hamilton. Also, while protectionism has been rejected, it might be making a comeback, with Biden and Trump's policies. But either way, protectionism was just a tool to secure federal government funding and grow American industry. And American industry definitely grew. And we now have a federal income tax to fund the government instead of a tariff, which was also done by Woodrow Wilson. And on top of that, as if it wasn't victory enough, we are a global superpower. We surpassed Britain like 8 decades ago, and our military is the strongest on earth. So, yeah, overall, Hamilton definitely won. But it's not all bad for Jefferson. Like, while the specific Jeffersonian vision didn't live on, the agrarian dream, the broader Jeffersonian dream kind of did. I mean, America is a democracy. It's hard to believe, but not all founding fathers were fans of democracy. They largely supported an aristocratic system in which only land-owning white males could do anything. And under Jefferson's presidency specifically, some states achieved greater suffrage by cutting property requirements and voting, but not a lot happened. But because of Jefferson's vision and his words in the Declaration of Independence and the like, major democratic transformations did come later, under Jackson, under Reconstruction, and under the Progressive Era. And all of these were largely fueled by Jefferson's words. all men are created equal. Everyone has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we see these ideas still floated around today, being used by activists to demand greater social rights in America. We use these words to hold America accountable to what it actually should be. And even though all the founding fathers were rich aristocrats, including Jefferson, Jefferson was the one who spoke for the yeoman farmer, and because of him, Jackson ended up speaking for the common man, and FDR spoke for the forgotten man. So Jefferson has definitely had a major influence on populist politics, democracy, crusades for social rights, and other movements. So before the video ends, I want to summarize where I think Hamilton and Jefferson would fit in our modern political landscape. So I think Hamilton would probably be mostly a part of the nationalist wing of the Republican Party, just given by the fact that he was a pro-business protectionist who called for a strong national government and a strong military. However, his tax and spend proposals and advocacy for a national debt would definitely be rejected by most Republicans. The nationalist wing is, however, less concerned with the national debt than conservatives are, so that's also why I think he'd be part of the nationalist wing. But they're still pretty cautious about it, at least in rhetoric. Also, Republicans in general are very anti-central bank nowadays, which is why I'm also considering Hamilton being a part of the liberal wing of the Democratic Party. Liberals, especially the modern Biden-esque liberals, look favorably upon the Federal Reserve, subsidies for key manufacturing industries, and infrastructure spending, especially when you consider Biden's recent embrace of tariffs in certain key areas as well. Actually, come to think of it, like, Bidenomics is kind of similar to Hamiltonianism. So Jefferson would probably be part of the libertarian wing of the Republican Party just because he advocated for low spending, low taxes, and a hands-off approach. However, it's possible that Jefferson might end up being like a Bernie bro or something, with blue-collar workers being the new yeoman farmer. But probably not, though, because he'd definitely be against all those massive spending proposals and high taxes. But he would agree with Bernie on cutting military spending. But yeah, that was the video. Tell me what you guys think. Would America be better off if it followed more of Jefferson's vision? And what do you think Hamilton and Jefferson would think of modern America? And where do you guys see their influences most show up in modern America? Like and subscribe if you liked the video, please. And feedback would also be greatly appreciated because this is my first video and I'm working on more. But I would like to see some feedback in the comments if you guys could tell me how to improve my videos. Yeah, see you guys soon.